So what you're saying is if the Bruins don't go out and spend big on the top free agents, like Reinhard or Gensel, means they're getting Drysdale.
I
Means
mean, like, this is the
Drysdale's a
thing.
Boston
Like,
Bruin.
I don't think it'd be great if the Bruins just go into this upcoming season with like 833,000 in cap space. Like, that doesn't mean I think they're going to have like 7 million.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat, presented by Prize Picks and Game Time. At Prize Picks, go use that promo code CLNS to get up to $100 back on that first deposit. And at Game Time, go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Celtics looking pretty damn good, Connor. Celtics looking pretty damn good. Punched their ticket to the final. Clean sweep of the Pacers. Exciting games, too. So go check out our sponsors over at Prize Picks and Game Time. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. Had a fun Memorial Day weekend. Went to the Poconos. I'd never been. It was an interesting place, to say the least. A little different than the city, I got to admit. There was
It's
a
not like
Wawa.
the blue. It's not like the Blue Hills.
No, not like the Blue Hills. Not quite like
Okay.
the Blue Hills. But they had Wawa, as I said. So, like, I think that was worth the trade-off, honestly. You ever been to a
Then
Wawa?
I have. Yeah. Have you been to a Sheets? I know you can get into a lot of fights in Pennsylvania over do you like Wawa or Sheets, but
No sheets for me. I did not have any sheets. Just I
but
was so focused on Wawa.
did you have a sub?
Oh, did I ever? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I absolutely did. I had a wrap, I had a sandwich. It was great. It was fun times. So I'm actually at my girlfriend's parents' house in Long Island because we went to the Poconos to Long Island, and now we're training it back tonight to
You're all
Boston. So
you're all over
I
the
got to.
place, man.
I am Pitbull. I told you, I'm Mr.
Yeah.
305. I'm Mr.
Yeah.
Worldwide.
Like I
Dolly
said, Mr.
Arnold, hold
Worldwide.
on.
I don't think I don't think I've gone from the Poconos to Long Island as Mr. Worldwide, but no, I'm sure Pitbull has made the similar track.
Yeah, he's adapted. He probably makes that trip like 7 times a day, honestly.
It's
Like those
true.
kind of short length trips, just trying to hit every single place every day. I think that's
Delta
what Pitbull
medallion
is.
status. He's killing it.
Yeah, he's got some points, that's for sure. How was your Memorial Day weekend? You do anything fun?
I mostly got caught up on a lot of wedding prep stuff, a lot of that fun stuff. So where the playoffs are now over for the Bruins, I suddenly have a little bit more time on my hands to deal with other pressing matters like impending weddings. So did a lot of stuff like that. Cleaned up the house. I feel like I've hit the point now where I feel like an old man because I was like, this was a good weekend. I cleaned the house. I threw out a bunch of trash, donated some old clothes. It was a good weekend, Evan. I can tip my
Did you,
hat for that.
did you mow the lawn too? That's
No,
like
I didn't
the
get down to that.
trifecta
Now,
for
now you
old
bring up
guys.
things that now you bring up things I didn't do. So now I feel bad again. But no,
Oh,
I
damn
didn't
it.
get to the lawn yet. Got the grill working though. Grill didn't blow up, so it's a good weekend.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting a little older too because I enjoy grilling now. So like I'm with you on that, where it's like, someday it'll be my wedding and I'll be prepping for that. But good for you for getting ahead of stuff. Good for you for getting older. Yeah,
Yes,
it's a
I
hell of a
try.
move. Hell of a move. But
It's
you're
all
young
but
at heart.
inevitable.
You're young at heart. That's what it is.
Not
We're
really,
you
but
and I are
thank
both
you for
getting
the
so
sentiment.
old. We're both getting so
Yes.
old. Um, anyways, some Bruin stuff. There was a comment that Don Sweeney made that stuck with me. That I when I first heard, I said what, and I had to rewind and watch it again just to make sure I caught it. And he talked about getting secondary scoring. He mentioned that this Bruins team over the offseason needs secondary scoring, and that's kind of where I was like, wait, really? Like secondary scoring? Like what do you classify as secondary scoring? Because I classify it as your third and fourth line guys, maybe your fifth or sixth forwards on the depth chart, guys that are on your second line even. Um, but I looked at the Bruins, and obviously David Pastrnak is a 50 goal scorer, 60 goal scorer. That's a primary scorer you've got there. You're not trading him. Um, but they didn't have a lot of scoring outside of that. Brad Marchand had a relatively down year in terms of points. He's only getting older. Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha put up really fine regular seasons, 59 and 60 points, I believe. And that's awesome. But they still need kind of one other, maybe even two, who can kind of put that primary scoring to use, especially with, it seems like Jake DeBrusk might be out of the picture now. What did you think of that comment? And do you disagree with it?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Ty about this too because I think a lot of people have focused in on that, right? Of secondary scoring. I don't know if that's the same as like, Gerard Mayo's like cash to burn or one of those things that's gonna not
Red
age
Sox
well. But
going. What did Tom Warner say
full
this
throttle,
offseason?
full
Full
throttle.
throttle.
Yeah. Yeah. That being said, I view that, and I think Ty agree with me. That's more of like just Don Sweeney speak in terms of like secondary scoring is secondary players that are not on the team right now. Like, it's easy. I think you can view that as like, all right, are they only going to get a third line guy? Are they going to get like Anthony Duclair or Dakota Joshua or someone like that and be happy? I think it's more like secondary in terms of guys that aren't on the team. So it's like I don't think it means that they're not going to go after a guy like Elias Lindholm or try to trade for a guy like Marty Necas, or maybe they're in the mix for another winger like a Gensel or a Reinhardt or something like that. Um, but I think how Sweeney phrased it, I don't think it just means like third or fourth line guys. I think it just means secondary to what they already have on the team, as opposed to I think the main point of what he said is just getting more scoring, and something that Neely, I think, especially mentioned, and whatever kind of Neely maps out in terms of being faster, more scoring, all those things. I think that kind of paints a bigger picture of what the Bruins are looking at and what Don Sweeney will go after. So I didn't take secondary scoring as it just being like bargain bin signings, fourth line, maybe a third line kind of guy. I think they're in the market for guys that can add some much needed scoring punch to this roster.
Yeah, and again, and I get that. I just wonder, like, you look at some of the primary guys in this free agent class, like Sam Reinhart, right? That's going to be a guy who's going to get a lot of money. Jay Gensel, another one, as you mentioned, and like I look at those two, and I do wonder, like, is there any chance the Bruins look at guys like Gensel and Reinhart, who are going to have probably pretty good size markets, teams that want them, they're going to get paid well. Are they going to, they have the cap to acquire one of those guys if they really wanted, or to sign one of those guys if they really wanted to. Could we see them making that kind of move and instead saying, hey, we're, it's going to be hard to make a huge upgrade at center, right? Like, let's say they get priced out of Elias Lindholm, or organizationally they don't believe that he is a true number one center, and they want to kind of either test the trade markets or wait till next offseason and do Coyle and Zaka and hope for Patra doing well again, and say we're just going to bolster the wings, so let's go after a Gensler or Reinhardt. Like, do you think, is there any chance you could see them doing that?
I mean, I think there's a chance that they might. I'm sure they'll kick the tires, right? Like I think, especially you look at like Reinhardt, who's coming off a 50 goal season, and also I think a really underrated, strong defensive player on the wing. There's a lot to like about a player like that and what he could bring to this team. I think it all just comes down to how much you want to make, how much of this cap space you want to invest in just one player, right? Like, would you rather drop 10 million for a guy like Reinhardt, who very well could get that on the market, or would you rather, you know, see if you can get Lindholm for 7 million, get a guy like Brendan Dillon to shore up the left side of your defense for 2.5, and then see what you have left over? Like, do you have enough to make it work for a guy like a Duclair, or like even more to spend on a guy like, I don't know, Toffoli, or someone who could be going for 4.5 million? Like, again, I think it all depends on what the market's going to be. Like, I don't think the Bruins have the cap space to re-sign Swayman, re-sign DeBrusque, get Lindholm, get a Toffoli, and
Get
get like a left shot.
Stamkos.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Get everybody.
you have the means to acquire at least one or two, maybe one definite impact player and other secondary players, maybe two if you're really smart with your money, or certain things fall as they may. But I just think like investing like 10 million of that cap space in one player when you have so many other pressing needs probably just doesn't fit with overall what the Bruins are going to look at, unless it's just, if Lindholm's off the market, if DeBrusque goes somewhere else, if Chandler Stevenson goes somewhere, and you're like, all right, well, we have to upgrade anyway. Like, we have to find some way to add an impact player. We run it back with Coyle and Zaka, which probably isn't their ideal move, but if you get a guy like Sam Reinhart available and you're able to do that, it's not a bad contingency plan. I just don't see it being their first course of action when you look at just how many areas they need to kind of shore up a little bit this offseason.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I want to dive more into that a little bit deeper. But first, a quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks.
The finals are right around the corner, and it's time for you to get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your cash with Prize Picks, as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level with a title on the line. With Prize Picks, you can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. When the finals are over, hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball is just getting started. With young stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves alongside greats like Brianna Stewart and Aja Wilson, you can win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and a huge selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And with basketball season still in full swing, there's plenty of opportunity to participate in Prize Picks. This week on Prize Picks, I'm selecting Jaylen Brown for more than 25 points and Caitlin Clark for more than 3.5 3-pointers made. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, use code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, let's get back to the show.
So you mentioned an interesting point there in, with a guy like Reinhardt or Jake Gensel tying up potentially $10 million in a free agent winger, which again, as we've talked about, can be dangerous, right? And I think this is true of any free agent you bring in. It's a new environment. It's a new system, new coaches, new players, new city, everything. You don't know how a player is going to fully react. I mean, you can have an Artemi Panarin for sure. Like that was a home run free agent signing. It looks damn good now. But you also have guys, like Matt Bolesky, we always mention. And I know that was years ago now. It's almost like, I think 8 years ago. Seems like just
Yeah, I don't like that
yesterday.
at all. Yeah.
Oof. Oof. But you have that too. And I think it's a hard thing to wrap your head around. But I think, with this Bruins team, the way the roster is currently constructed, they have a ton of money invested in David Pastrnak as their top line right winger and on the wings. And I don't see Sweeney in this front office tying up 10 million in a guy like Reinhardt. As you said, okay, maybe if every other option is gone and it's like, all right, this is the only way we're going to be able to do this. I just don't see that being the case. I don't see them investing that kind of capital in a guy like that. It would make more sense if they were stacked down the middle and had nobody on the wings.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we just need one top right wing or one top left wing, and we're cup contenders. They're the complete opposite, and that's why like the middle to me is so important. You have to go out and get a #1 center by hook or crook. Now, is that a trade? Is that a signing? Remains to be seen. There's lots of fun scenarios that we've discussed, Natchez or, Elias Lindholm. And to me, that's sort of where the secondary scoring, as you mentioned, kind of comes in, right? And if we are to take Sweeney literally with what he said, I believe you in the sense that is kind of Sweeney speak. But like, if
Right.
it is true that second, I mean, do you think this organization views Lindholm as a guy that can be a primary scorer? I would think yes, considering they tried hard to get him at the deadline.
Yeah, I think so. And again, like I kind of view Lindholm as a guy that can definitely be a 1C, especially with a good supporting cast around him. Like again, there's very few players that I think drive play just by themselves. Like he had that 40 goal season, but he also was with a lot of guys put together absurd, years that year with Calgary. Like I think Goudreau is still on that team. Kachuk had his
Yep.
100-point season, so that team was just a wagon anyway. That being said, like is Lindholm a guy that's going to every year be a 35 goal, 85-point guy? No, but I think he can be a 60-point guy. And again, you look at like Zaka and Coyle's based on numbers, be like, oh, he's more of the same. Well, one, I think you put a guy with that skill set with someone like David Pastrnak, it elevates his own game. Like maybe he can consistently be a 60-point guy. But also you add in the fact of his defensive game, his face-off numbers, and also his addition to the team beyond just adding another scoring element, pushing guys down the lineup, whether it's Coyle further down the lineup, whether it's Zaka to the wing. Um, I think there's a reason why the Bruins prioritize a guy like Lindholm. And again, like, is he a bona fide top line center? I think he can be a very good center. I think in ideal situation, he's your 2C, but it also goes back to the fact of like, if you're able to get Lindholm this year and he's your 1C and you go next year with some assortment of Lindholm, Zaka, Coyle, Patra as your grouping, you're in a pretty good spot. And also you may be able to add to that later on when you have more contracts coming off the books in years ahead. Like everyone wants to talk about Leon Draisaitl. Like if you're able to save some of that money, you look at that next year and you can approach that when you have more cap flexibility. That's why I see them like not allocating 10 million for a guy like Reinhardt when you add to an already pretty good talent group on the wing, right? Like you either want to save some of that flexibility for the years ahead, or you get a guy like Lindholm who helps you out this year, and then you can, finagle it a little bit more in the years ahead. If you want to spend 10 plus million, and it won't be that much if you are realistically in the mix for a guy like Draisaitl. But like if there's ever a guy to spend 12, 13, $14 million on, that's the guy. That is the guy you want. So
Let it
um,
be him.
yes, I think that Lindholm, if he's your top target this year, it makes your team better. And I think you still have the means to, if he ends up being your 2C down the road and you're able to find an upgrade, that's pretty damn good. But even if he is your 1C for the foreseeable future and you don't get Draisaitl, which is the most likely scenario here, he, I think, could more or less do the job, especially if he's stapled to the hip with Pasternak moving forward.
So what you're saying is if the Bruins don't go out and spend big on the top free agents, like Reinhard or Gensel, means they're getting Draisaitl.
I
Means
mean, like, this is the
Draisaitl's
thing.
Boston
Like,
Bruins.
I don't think it'd be great if the Bruins just go into this upcoming season with like 833,000 in cap space. Like that doesn't mean I think they're going to have like 7 million, or it's like they're hedging all their bets. But you also look at like next year, you got other expiring contracts. You got Marchand's contracts up, and again, I don't know if he's going to follow the Bergeron Chara routine and take a pay cut to make the team better. But like they do have the means that if you have some more flexibility and these contracts you can kind of augment and tweak a little bit, you do have the opportunity to spend big again next year, especially if the cap jumps up again, which it very well should do. I think when you look at just how the escrow has all been paid off. So, um, but yeah, I think it all comes down to what you want to spend on. I'd rather spend, I don't know, 7.5 million on a Lindholm, address a need, and the means to maybe slot him down further on if you're able to land another big fish in the years ahead. May not be Draisaitl, but there'll be other guys worth investing money in if you have some of that flexibility, as opposed to 10 million in a guy like Gensel who's 30 and adds to an already pretty good strength of your team. He'll help, but like again, it's all about what you want to prioritize. And if you want to get Lindholm and then can build off of that next year and years ahead, I'd rather that be the strategy.
You need a top center. You need a top
Yes.
center. You need an upgrade this offseason. That is, to me, that's number one priority. I want to get into why I think Lindholm better fit than most people think. I know there's been some stuff out of Vancouver this season. You get right after the deadline didn't really fit. They wanted to trade him again. But first, a quick word from our friends over at Game Time.
Quick break to tell you about my good friends over at Game Time. I am very excited about the NBA playoffs, and what's awesome is here in Boston, Celtics fans make TD Garden the best atmosphere for a playoff game. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Maybe it's the NBA playoffs, or it's the MLB regular season. Once the Celtics wrap up, which hopefully ends with a championship, Fenway Park is a great place to spend a summer day or night. Going from TD Garden playoffs to chill, exciting nights at Fenway Park is one of the best times of the year. With Game Time, there's last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and there's flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. And there are zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. So, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, back to the show.
So what's interesting with Elias Lindholm is, he gets traded to Vancouver from Calgary and, initially doesn't really fit. They tried to trade him. They tried it. Oh my God. They tried to
Yeah.
trade him. When I'm in Long Island, New York, my vocab just goes down the toilet, I guess. Must be the pink, these beautiful pink walls. So that
Yes.
must be it. It must be the pink walls. But they tried to trade, or they were, at least looking into trading him after they'd acquired him. And, they already had guys like Pedersen and JT Miller as kind of 1 and 2 guys. But what's interesting is now that the season is over in Vancouver, players have been very adamant about wanting Lindholm back. The Canucks have been kind of adamant about wanting him back too. I don't know how they're going to do it. They have a lot of guys up for contracts, especially on D. Um, I don't know how they're going to make it work, especially considering you already have kind of a 1 and 2 tandem with Miller and Pedersen. That must be nice, right, Connor?
Yeah,
Remember the
pretty good.
days? Remember those
Yeah.
days?
Mm.
But to me, I look at a guy like Elias Lindholm, so they still want him. They clearly are going to be going after him in free agency, most likely. And I think another reason why I'm okay with the Bruins going out and signing him is, you mentioned, like, is he going to be a 35 goal, 85 point guy? And I said this last offseason with Coyle and Zaka. Like, with Bergeron and Krejci, aside from a couple years, were not top producers in their class of centers. They just weren't. But they were really strong two-way guys. They were skilled. They made their teammates better. They consistently produced at a 60 to 70 point level. And you were cool with that. And you were cool with that. And I think Lindholm is in that same category of great two-way center. He's going to make his teammates better. He's proven that. And he can put up 60 to 70 points on average, right? Of course, there's going to be a year where he's with, let's say Zaka and Pasternak next year and he goes off for 82 points or something like that. But I think even if you're somewhere in the 75, 70 range, like, you're still in a good spot there. And that's why, like, I know obviously there are younger options like Natchez who would be, great. But with Lindholm, at least, I think you kind of have a pretty good idea of what he can do, right?
Yeah, who he kind of reminds me of in terms of like what I think next year could be with him, and it's not just with the Bruins. I think it's also something where you look at just whatever team he ends up going to. If he's in a featured role, especially just at center, like not on the wing like he was with Vancouver or anything like that, but kind of reminds me a little bit of Ryan O'Reilly and what his past year was, right? Where like Ryan O'Reilly was banged up last year with the Blues, his numbers dropped, goes to like a third line center. You're like, all right, is that kind of what he is at this stage of his career, like a really good 3C, which like a compelling case for that when you look at just how he's kind of been slowing down and kind of the toll that he put himself through, especially those years with the Blues. And then he goes to Nashville, he's back in the top 6 role, has guys like Forsberg with him, which certainly helps, but he almost had 70 points this year while also continuing to be a very good two-way centerman. Like, I think if you're the Bruins and you look at just Lindholm's body of work, his high floor based on his defensive game and his face-off numbers, um, and what he should be able to do with, a guy like Pasternak and whoever it is. Like, is it a player like Marchand to his left? Is it Zaka? Is it DeBrusk if he's back? Do they trade for Marty Natchez and put him on the wing? Like, they have means to add more scoring depth around them. But even if it is just, Montgomery likes to operate in terms of like, putting pairs together on lines. If it's Pasternak and Lindholm, he's going to be in line for a bounce back season. Again, is that 40 goals? No, but if he's like a Ryan O'Reilly and all of a sudden he has a 68-point season, is contributing on the power play, contributing on the PK, can win faceoffs at critical times. And also, again, his presence alone, just pushing guys into roles maybe better suited for him for the rest of the lineup. You'll take that. So I think that's what he kind of reminds me of. People think that maybe he's on the downward trajectory because he had 44 points this year. I see him being a guy that whoever he lands with, if he's in a top 6 role with a stronger cast, I think you're going to get good value for what he brings.
And I just think you also have the playoff matchup advantage too. He can be a shutdown center. He can go against other teams' top lines and shut them down. And to me, like, that's a guy I want. And you nailed it at the beginning. Like, if that's your 1C for the next couple years, great. If that's your 1C now and then 2C when Leon Draisaitl rolls into town with like Regina's Pizzas and pizza and like a Mike's Pastries, people always get on me and say that's like touristy stuff. I love those two places. What do you want me to do? Like, not eat there because, like, the tourists eat there? I mean, come on. Like, I like those places. Then I'm okay. I'm okay with that with Draisaitl and Lindholm. That'd be a hell of a tandem if that ends up coming to fruition. And it kind of hits sort of a thing you wrote about over the weekend about, the Bruins looking for a type of player. And Lindholm seems to kind of fit that type.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Coyle, I think, mentioned during breakup day of how much they prioritize two-way players. Um, Neely mentions, speed and winning puck battles. And I wouldn't say that Lindholm's the fastest skater, especially among centermen. Like, I think probably Chandler Stevenson has the highest motor of that group. But again, you can, yeah, if you're just looking for like winning puck battles, and Lindholm, is viewed as one of those, two-way finesse Swedes. Maybe you don't view him as these guys that's going to be really physical, but he was operating a lot of grade A ice with Vancouver during this latest run. Like he can throw his weight around a little bit. He can do those things, kind of like how like Bergeron is not a bruiser, but like can engage down low when needed, right? And that's why I think he's such an effective player, Lindholm, in terms of his overall game. So if you're looking for like, it's almost like if you're trying to take out two birds with one stone, Stevenson is a pretty good contingency plan in terms of being a high motor with another, obviously talented centerman. But if you're the Bruins and you come out of this with a two-way centerman like Lindholm and a speed guy on the wing, and you've got options there, like whether it's DeBrus makes the most sense, even though we'll see what his market is. But you look at like, again, if you're looking for just like a third line guy, Duclair has a lot of speed, has
Duclair's
a
a good
30
one.
goal season. He's a guy that won't be 5.5 million, I don't think, right? If you look at, even like Marty Natchez, if you're trying to trade for him, we'll see what that market is and what have you. But if he's a wing and you're able to put him with a guy like Pasternak or anyone in the top six, like if you're looking for just speed, Marty Natchez, watch his highlights. That guy is a zone entry machine. Guy can make something happen out of nothing when he just has a head full of steam. So if you're the Bruins, you come out of this offseason with a guy like Lindholm and Natchez, that's a home run in terms of what it is. Is that realistic? Will you have the money to make both that work? Remains to be seen, but I think if you're the Bruins, right, two-way centerman and a winger that adds that speed component is what you desperately need.
Completely agree. Completely agree, Connor. As always, much love for joining Bruins Beat. What can people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, we'll have you covered every step of the way this offseason. We finally have the dates for training camp. So training camp officially starts September 18th at Warrior. I
Mark
believe
the calendars. Mark the
yes,
calendars.
rookie camp starts a week prior to that, but we also have free agency starting July 1st. Dev camps that same week. So it's going to all of a sudden be very busy over here. So we'll have you covered every step of the way leading up to that during Dev camp, free agency, all that stuff over at Boston.com and the Globe. So please follow us over there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. Maybe I'll do like a live podcast at your wedding. I'll be the host. Like there's a show off to the side, like as the people come
There's
in,
like
like the red
there's the
carpet.
DJ, there's the DJ going on at the exact same time. He's just Evan just talking about Leon Draisaitl. Like, no, they can make the money work. He's friends with Pasternak.
As you and Sarah are dancing, the narration is just like why Leon Draisaitl. It's me and Ty Anderson being like why Leon Draisaitl makes so much
I just
sense.
hear in the middle of the dance. You hear like Marco Sturm and Dennis Seidenberg loved their time with them. Like, damn it, guys! If they get Leon Draisaitl, it's all worth it. So it'll be a great note.
I think if Draisaitl ends up coming here this offseason, I think there has to be some sort of plan for that to be in place. But
yeah,
anyways,
that news will break during the wedding, so which would be very cool.
No doubt. No, there's gonna be some.
I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Anyways, Connor, always a pleasure. And that's this week's Bruins Beat, presented by Prize Picks and Game Time. You Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.